They'll never admit it openly. Not to their husbands. Not to their friends. Not even to themselves. But something begins to shift in a woman after 40. It's not just her body changing, it's her identity collapsing. For years, she defined herself through nurturing, loyalty, and love. She was the giver, the anchor, the one who made others feel complete. But somewhere between the fading echoes of her youth and the cold mirror that reminds her she's no longer desired like before, a quiet hunger awakens. It's not for romance, not for commitment, but for the raw, undeniable confirmation that she's still wanted. You can see it in her eyes when a younger man looks her way. That small flicker of something, shock, excitement, power. For a split second, she remembers who she was before the years dulled her reflection. Before the marriage, the kids, the routines. Before she became invisible. It's not love she misses. It's the feeling of being alive. Love, at her age, often means routine, predictable, secure, familiar. But desire is chaos. Desire is danger. It's proof that the pulse of her femininity still beats beneath the armor of age and experience. And here lies the uncomfortable truth most people can't handle. After 40, many women no longer seek love to fill their hearts, they seek sex to resurrect their sense of self. Because love asks for patience, compromise, nurturing. Sex asks for surrender, for abandon, for proof that someone still sees her as more than a mother, more than a wife, more than a memory. You see, youth gave her attention for free. It followed her everywhere, at work, in the street, in the way men looked at her without even trying to hide it. But now, attention must be earned, desired, stolen. And for some women, that struggle becomes intoxicating. She doesn't crave emotional intimacy anymore. She's had decades of that. She's listened, cared, sacrificed. She's given everything that love demanded. But what has love given her back? A fading connection. A partner who no longer looks at her with hunger, only with familiarity. So she turns inward. And when she does, she discovers something unsettling. Beneath the layers of tenderness and morality, there's still an animal inside her, a creature that doesn't care about emotional compatibility, only about being desired. Society tells her she should age gracefully, that she should embrace wisdom, serenity, and acceptance. But she doesn't want to be wise. She wants to feel wild. And she feels guilty for that. Because women aren't supposed to crave like that, not after a certain age. They're supposed to outgrow it, to transcend it. But the truth? They never do. They just learn to hide it better. And when that desire breaks through the surface, it doesn't come politely. It arrives like a storm, intense, disruptive, and shamelessly physical. It's not about falling in love again. It's about reclaiming the body that love once took for granted. For years, she was told that sex was a way to keep love alive. Now she realizes that for her, it's the other way around. Love is just a story that gives sex permission. And the older she gets, the more she understands that love, as beautiful as it once seemed, was never the real currency of her power. It was desire. The ability to be wanted. The ability to walk into a room and know that someone, anyone, still feels that pull. It's not vanity. It's survival. Because when the world stops seeing her, when her husband stops noticing her, when her reflection starts betraying her, what else is left but the body? The one thing she can still use to remind herself she exists. And this is why, after 40, love starts to feel distant. Too abstract. Too quiet. But sex, that's immediate. It's proof. It's fire. It's now. And when you've lived long enough to feel invisible, nothing feels more sacred than being wanted again, even if it's just for a night. That's the dark truth. She doesn't want romance anymore. She wants resurrection. Here's the truth most men never see coming. The shift isn't about betrayal, it's about biology and psychology colliding at a crossroads. After 40, something rewires in a woman's mind. Her hormones may dip, but her awareness spikes. The urgency of youth is gone, yet the awareness of time becomes sharper than ever. She begins to feel every second slipping through her fingers, every reflection reminding her that the window of being desired, truly desired, is closing. And when that realization sinks in, she stops chasing love, because love no longer offers what it once did. Love is safe, predictable, familiar. It's a rhythm she's danced to for decades. But sex becomes symbolic. It becomes proof that she still matters in the primal economy of attraction. That she's still capable of pulling gravity toward her. See, when she was younger, sex was something she could afford to be casual about. She had time, choices, beauty as her armor. But at 40, it becomes a declaration. A protest against fading into the background. A rebellion against irrelevance. You might think this sounds shallow, but it's not. It's deeply psychological. Because female desire isn't just about physical pleasure, it's about validation of identity. When a woman is desired, she feels seen. Not as a caregiver, not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a woman. A being of beauty, chaos, and energy. And after 40, when society quietly begins to unsee her, that craving for recognition intensifies. Here's where love starts to fail her. Love doesn't see. Love assumes. Love grows comfortable. Love stops paying attention. Her husband, her partner, her long-term lover, they love her deeply, but they no longer look at her. Their touch becomes routine. Their compliments, mechanical. And a woman doesn't crave routine affection, she craves the tension of uncertainty. The pulse that says, you still have it. Because in that tension, she rediscovers her vitality. Biologically, a woman's body begins to rebel against decline. Her libido doesn't always disappear. It transforms. It stops being about reproduction and starts being about recognition. It becomes existential. She doesn't crave sex as an act. She craves what it symbolizes, proof that she hasn't faded. Proof that someone can still lose themselves in her. And so, paradoxically, as her emotional needs become more refined, her physical needs become more primal. She doesn't want emotional security anymore. She's had that for decades. She wants the shock of being wanted. The thrill of unpredictability. The mirror that looks back and says, you're still alive. Society misinterprets this. It calls her desperate, reckless, selfish. But she's not chasing lust, she's chasing validation of being seen again. And no amount of emotional love can give her that. Emotional love is internal. Sexual attention is external. One feeds the heart, the other feeds the ego. And after 40, it's the ego that starts starving first. You see, men often age into power. Their gray hair, their wrinkles, their calm authority, it's interpreted as confidence, status, control. But women, society doesn't reward them for aging gracefully. It erases them for it. And when you're slowly erased, you either accept invisibility, or you fight it. So she fights. Quietly, at first. A change in clothes. A different tone in her messages. A small act of rebellion that no one notices. Then bigger ones. And beneath every choice is the same silent cry. Don't forget me. That's why, after 40, sex becomes more than pleasure. It becomes a language, a way of reclaiming her place in a world that no longer looks at her the same way. Every time she feels desired, she reclaims a fragment of her fading self. Every time she's wanted, she remembers what it felt like to be young, powerful, dangerous. Love asks her to surrender. But sex allows her to reclaim. And that's the paradox. What she truly needs now is not love's safety, but desire's danger. Because danger is what makes her feel alive again. It's not about cheating or immorality, it's about survival. Psychological, emotional survival. A way to balance the loss of youth with the thrill of still having something left to give. That's the forbidden truth most people don't want to face. Older women don't lose desire, they redefine it. They need sex not to fall in love, but to remember who they were before love consumed them. Let me tell you what it looks like in real life. Not theory. Not psychology textbooks. Real people, real moments, quiet revolutions hidden in ordinary lives. There's Laura, 51, married for 26 years. Her husband, David, loves her, at least he thinks he does. They still share dinners, vacations, a house filled with framed smiles. But the truth is, Laura hasn't felt seen in over a decade. One night, she goes out with some friends. Nothing wild, just a bar with soft music and dim lighting. She doesn't plan anything, doesn't even dress to impress. But a younger man at the bar glances her way. It's not the kind of look that says, "You're beautiful." It's the kind that says, "I see you." And something inside her breaks open. That night, she doesn't sleep with him. She doesn't even give him her number. But she goes home with that look burned into her mind, the reminder that she still has the power to make someone feel something. The next day, she's quieter, more reflective. She looks at her husband across the breakfast table and realizes that his affection has become routine, predictable, safe. Love feels like a warm blanket. But desire feels like oxygen. Then there's Elena, 43, divorced, 2 kids. She spent years being the emotional caretaker, always giving, always nurturing. But when her marriage ended, something inside her snapped. She started dating again, expecting to find love. Instead, she found something else: freedom. For the first time in years, she could explore her body without guilt. No expectations. No duty. Just the raw experience of being touched, wanted, desired. And what she discovered wasn't emptiness, it was power. Because every time she shared her body, she wasn't seeking love, she was reclaiming ownership over herself. And when she told me her story, she said something that stuck with me. She said, "Love made me invisible. Desire made me real again." It's not about sleeping around. It's about feeling something real in a world that constantly tells you you're fading. Then there's Miriam, 48. She stayed faithful for decades. Raised her children, kept her home, sacrificed her dreams for her family. But when her kids grew up and left, the silence in the house became unbearable. Her husband buried himself in work. The routine swallowed their connection whole. And one day, a coworker, someone 10 years younger, complimented her perfume. Just that. A small, simple gesture. But that moment lingered longer than any "I love you" she'd heard in years. Not because she wanted that man, but because he made her feel like she still existed. For women like Miriam, the desire isn't just physical, it's existential. It's a way to prove they're still seen, still felt, still alive. That's why so many women in their 40s and 50s find themselves chasing something they can't even name. It's not love. It's not lust. It's recognition. Society judges them harshly, calls them selfish, reckless, immoral. But it doesn't understand that this isn't about betrayal, it's about survival. When you've spent your whole life being the emotional foundation for others, there comes a point where you need to feel something that belongs only to you. Even in therapy rooms, this pattern repeats. Women confess that they don't want to cheat, yet they fantasize about being wanted again. They're not driven by emptiness, they're driven by nostalgia for who they used to be. The woman who once turned heads. The woman who could make hearts race. The woman who mattered beyond her duties. And when they talk about it, it's not in shame. It's in longing. They miss the version of themselves that lived through desire, not responsibility. One woman told me, "When I was young, I thought love would complete me. But now, I just want to feel alive before time erases me completely." That's not a confession, it's a requiem. And if you listen closely, you'll notice that none of these women want to destroy love. They just want to feel something beyond it. Something that makes them tremble again. Because after 40, love starts to feel like memory, but desire still feels like fire. And that's what this is all about. Not betrayal. Not rebellion. But resurrection. Each touch, each glance, each moment of desire, it's a small way of saying, "I'm still here." Because when the world stops noticing you, when your body becomes a shadow of its younger self, when your name turns into a role, mother, wife, caretaker, you either surrender, or you burn a little brighter, even if it's only for a moment. And many women choose to burn. There's a reason this truth feels so heavy. It cuts through everything society tells us about love, loyalty, and aging. Because we like to believe that maturity brings peace, that with time comes emotional clarity. But what if that's a lie? What if age doesn't quiet desire? What if it distills it? After 40, many women stop pretending. They've spent half their lives taking care of others, chasing approval, performing the role of the good woman. And suddenly, they wake up one morning realizing they've been dying slowly in the name of stability. Love, for all its beauty, has turned into a cage padded with good intentions. It promises comfort, but comfort isn't life, it's maintenance. That's when the hunger starts. It's subtle at first. A gaze that lingers too long. A secret thought she'd never dare to say out loud. A sense of restlessness she can't explain. She starts dressing differently, not for someone else, but for herself. She wants to feel seen, even if no one's watching. And this, right here, is the emotional breaking point. When she realizes that love no longer fuels her, it dulls her. Because love, as she's lived it, has been sacrifice. Love demanded she give up the parts of herself that were too wild, too sexual, too untamed. And now those parts are clawing their way back. They don't want affection. They want recognition. They want the primal truth that she's still capable of being desired. This is the war that happens inside her. On one side, the woman who built a life on loyalty, patience, and morality. On the other, the woman who wants to feel fire in her veins again before time takes it away forever. And the cruelest part? Society punishes both sides. If she stays, she's invisible. If she leaves, she's condemned. So she learns to live in the gray, to exist between her fading youth and her awakened hunger. She learns to smile in public, to play her role, but behind her eyes burns that quiet rebellion. Not for lust, for truth. This is not about sex in the physical sense. It's about what sex represents: life, vitality, danger, movement. It's about touching something raw again after years of numbness. Because love may calm the soul, but desire resurrects it. And this is where the emotional intensity peaks, not in her actions, but in her inner conflict. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. She doesn't want to betray anyone. But she can't keep betraying herself either. So she stops apologizing for wanting. She stops explaining her hunger away as just hormones or midlife crisis. She accepts that being desired is not vanity, it's humanity. And if you look deeper, you'll see something profound. What she's searching for isn't sex, it's presence. In those moments of desire, she feels fully alive, fully aware, fully here. It's not about bodies. It's about consciousness, the raw electricity of being wanted and wanting back. And maybe that's what aging really is, the slow stripping away of illusions until all that remains is honesty. And the most honest thing a woman can admit after 40 is that she still craves to be desired, not loved. Because love often expects her to be soft, nurturing, safe. But desire allows her to be wild, fierce, unpredictable. And maybe, just maybe, that's who she always was beneath it all. So, she begins to choose differently. Not recklessly, but truthfully. She stops chasing fairy tales of everlasting romance. She stops believing that love alone can fulfill her. Instead, she learns to honor the hunger itself, to let it remind her that she's still alive. And this is the quiet revolution of the mature woman. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't need to. She just moves differently, speaks differently, looks at herself differently. She understands now that life isn't about being loved endlessly. It's about being awake before it ends. That's the essence of her transformation. She doesn't need sex because she's broken. She needs it because it's the last language her body speaks before silence takes over. And when she lies awake at night, thinking of who she was and who she's becoming, she doesn't feel shame anymore. She feels peace. Because she's no longer living for what others think she should be. She's living for the pulse beneath her own skin. That's not immorality. That's awakening. And maybe that's what love was always meant to lead to, the courage to face yourself without illusions. Because when all the stories fall away, only one truth remains. We don't crave love to feel alive. We crave desire to remember that we are.